should we do these town halls here? The 4
Ooh,
and
yes.
5?
Yes, let's do the
let's
town
do it.
halls. I was also just watching this on my stream. They're great. Let's hit those.
So yeah, this is a Sue Gordon, an attendee at Town Hall in Central PA. Let's check this out. This is Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
For the Department of Education. He got axed. No. Opened up the computer, guess what? You're gone. Let me tell you what he
She's talking about her son.
did for the Department of Education. He reviewed contracts. He saved everybody in here thousands of tax dollars, and his evaluation was the top. Then I turned on the TV the next day, and there is Trump saying they were scum, no good people, what they got rid of. I am furious. Furious. Where is Scott Perry? Our federal workers, he has the most federal workers under him. Where is he? Medicare. And let me tell you, some of the calls I return back are poor, limited people that can't file their paperwork. So I do it for them, with them, and get it done. If they get cut, they won't have anything. Same with the seniors. I help them make plans, I help them understand the system. The system is very complicated. So everyone here has to stand up, because I see it on both ends. Thank you.
Damn. Listen, it's great to see this, and that one's specifically good because you got a nice, along with the speaker here being really great, you got a nice view of like the crowd. It wasn't from like a stage where you can't really, you saw that crowd. The Republican Party and the various different, MAGA politicians are trying to basically convince their hardcore faithful supporters that the people showing up who are angry to these town halls aren't really, their fellow citizen, their average constituent. These are like leftist activists. And I'm sure some of them are, obviously. Yeah. But if you look at that crowd, they were like I would say, based on that shot, older, like they were like a fairly baby boomer aged crowd. And typically over the years, baby boomers have been more conservative because they're older, I guess, and they're not going to be as progressive as maybe the millennials. But they're
pro-government in certain cases, and to see it just like acts like this. I mean, that woman is the best of us. Like what she does in helping people on Medicaid and Social Security work through a Byzantine system that is stacked exactly to make it difficult for those people to do it is heroic. And how dare people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who have scammed their way to the top, basically cast aspersions on people like that they're committing fraud or there's something like that. Like it's really an attack on what is the best of America when it comes to people like that.
And this is happening all over the country. Like you can watch town halls from all over America and see almost this exact same thing. I think on my stream, we watched one from Spokane, Washington. We watched one from the 1st District in Nebraska. And this exact same thing is happening all over the country, because a lot of Republicans are now, and I don't want to assume everyone who's angry at these people are Republican voters. Certainly they're not all MAGA, because I think Republicans like to make that conflation where every Republican is like a tried and true MAGA voter, one of Trump's cultists who are going to support him no matter what he does. But that's not true. A lot of people are cultural Republicans who just don't fully understand what the Republican Party is actually trying to accomplish all the time, and they're becoming hyper aware of the reality that the Republican Party, through Trump and Elon, is a party that is, more or less looking to entirely abolish every agency in the government that does anything other than funnel money up to the top percent of earners, and everyone else is just going to be left out in the lurch. And, unfortunately, a lot of people had to experience that directly for them to fully appreciate that. But now that they are appreciating that, like a lot of the talking points around how undocumented migrants were taking jobs and taking housing was just a tool used by the uber wealthy to extract value and wealth from our society, broadly speaking. They're mad. They're angry. Right. Will they be able to properly contextualize all of that, the same way that we do? No, but they will be able to see who's doing it to them, especially when people who are doing it to them are doing it as publicly and rubbing their faces in it the way Elon Musk is. And they're angry. They're angry. Right. And, that's why they're trying to cancel events like this all over the country, because they want to keep people like this isolated and don't want them to understand that they're not the only ones who are suffering as a result of the Republican Party's machinations, as the result of, Elon Musk and Donald Trump's machinations. They want to keep people isolated and individualized in such a way that they can't, further contextualize what's happening to them. And it's not working because people are having it happen to them.
Right. Yeah, that's like a major thing that is a huge factor in this. That like this is immediately affecting people who are also Trump's supporters. Yeah. Like you hear story after story of like the guy on Social Security who was, as Elon Musk was declaring, oh, so many dead people are getting Social Security. No, It turns out that they're wrongly, there's some like administrative issues, of course, but that money isn't going out to a dead person. That person is alive and needs Social Security, and they're just wrongly marked as deceased in the system. But instead of fixing the mark of him being deceased, they're just assuming the money was going out fraudulently and taking his money. That's one instance. Another instance is like the voter who voted for Trump, who wanted him to make the government smaller, but lo and behold, their own children are federal employees and they lose their job. And all of a sudden it's affecting me. I didn't want them to fire my kid. Well, guess what? That's what happens. But you know what? They're going to now get upset at the administration. And this is going to continue to happen over and over again down the line with all these things that the Trump administration is affecting. And I think that's what you're seeing really at these town halls. Like these people, again, they probably range from if you want to say, oh, it's leftist activists. Yeah, I'm sure there are some there, along with some non-activists, along with some conservatives who were hit by the Trump administration. It's literally your constituents. Your constituency is made up of people of all different backgrounds and all different ideological beliefs.
Ironically, it's like the thing that the right always says, like, your actions are making us right wing. It's like, no, you attacking things like Social Security and Medicaid and the National Institutes of Health or whatever, that is turning people into leftists. And actually, this next clip here, this is from the same town hall. A woman has a suggestion here.
I'm calling AOC because we can't get Scott Perry to have a town hall. She is traveling through New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and she will hold a town hall where your representative will not come. So please call AOC and bring her here and shame Scott Perry.
It's so fantastic that there's someone doing this. Like if I was AOC, I'm sure she only has limited time and budget to get everywhere, but I would try to hit up as many of these places as possible. And I'm sure she is. I know if I was in Congress. Wait, what did you say?
She quote tweeted that and said, like, yeah, she's making a list of places she wants to go to.
That's awesome. Yeah, if I was a congressperson, that's what I would do. I'd be going around to every single one of these places where Republicans are avoiding their constituents, because not only are you're doing two things here. You're showing a group of people in somewhere that's completely unrelated and probably very different from where you're from, that you care about them, which helps in turn whatever candidate decides to run there, and then will also help her, who, if she has larger aspirations in government.
Yeah, and it's not just about not just about AOC or Bernie Sanders going to these districts to preach, communism, like the immortal science of Marxist Leninism. This is about someone needs to go to these places to advocate for the value of the public sector, because the Democratic Party just simply does not do this as a coherent part of their messaging. And now people are in a place where they can see what happens when the public sector has been devalued in the minds of enough voters to the point where it can be, continue to be subject to deregulation, defunding, austerity politics. It leads to outcomes like this. And so people need to be going to these districts to contextualize, this is why we need a robust public sector. This is why you should not allow yourself to be convinced by, hucksters that someone else getting something from the government is somehow, impeding your ability to be successful, because we all get things from the government. The idea of an entitlement program is just like a Reagan era talking point to get people to, agree to deregulating every aspect of the government, not just taking money away from minorities. The roads that you drive on are an entitlement from the government. They're money that is taken away from the masses to be put into a project that betters all society. And Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid is no different. But we don't hear Democrats not just going to districts like this, but just on the news advocating for this is why we need a robust public sector. This is why we need people to work in government. This is why public sector employees are valuable and should be paid, for their work and for their labor. And that's what people, need to hear right now, because this is the result of, 30, 40, 50 years of neoliberal slop propaganda,
right.
Not necessarily people, going to the town halls and being angry as a result of that, but the fact that we got to this point is the result of all those years of people well, what does the government even really do, besides get in the way of you and your ability to make money and do, and it's people need a basic civics lesson in what their tax dollars go to, besides bombing children, unfortunately.
No, that's a great point. And it's sort of I guess, an elitist way of thinking that Democrats a lot of times just go into things with the baseline belief that people know just these common facts to them. They view this as common because they work in politics and policy. They're in this bubble. So they just view this as, oh, I know this. This is common sense. Everyone knows this. But unfortunately, a lot of people just don't realize that some of the things they take for granted are actually there because of the government. And that's where your tax dollars went. Roads just don't magically spring out of the ground. They're built and maintained.
And also just a lot of Democrats just don't believe in that either, because they're neoliberal. They just don't believe that the government should be doing as much as it should be doing. And so that's why they tinker around the edges. That's why they allow, policies that uplift children out of poverty, like the child tax credit, to expire, because ultimately they believe in this illusion of the free market, and that needs to be upheld by our government above the private sector. But Trump and Elon Musk being viewed as, great geniuses are a result of that exact same mentality. This idea that, if you're a successful businessman, we'll abstract that. Who cares how you became successful? Who cares how you became rich? The fact that you are rich and successful is a sign of your inherent moral and intellectual superiority. And so why shouldn't you run our government? When they demonize public sector workers, when they demonize government bureaucracy, acontextually, they give rise to the exact same conditions that lead to the people like Trump becoming the president. And we just need a party. They don't need to be fully communist. They don't need to be fully socialist to just be a part of that. So it's okay, but the government has a role in making people's lives better, right? If anything, the references to communism and socialism in our government and our political media is oftentimes just a red herring to prevent people from advocating for or appreciating basic redistributive policies, even policies that like the New Deal or things that are aligned with the New Deal, or it could be seen as being part of that same genealogy, are, demonized by the people as being that's just communism, even though they were just made to ensure that capitalists could still do capitalism more or less without people uprising and doing stuff at this town hall, banging on tables, calling for Scott Perry to come out so they could do God knows what to him, right? We're just at a point where people have been subjected to so much neoliberal propaganda by all sides, that they just don't fully understand, they don't fully understand what the government does for them and how like their lives would be radically different without the government, like in a way that they can now appreciate, right? Which is unfortunate that they have to experience it to appreciate it, because people, like Sam, people like us talk to them about it all the time, but until they appreciate it, until they experience it, they can't appreciate it for some reason.
And right? I think it's very interesting, like if you're a Democrat wondering why is that woman who it looks like she's from the boomer generation, why is she looking out for AOC? It's because, like Brandon said, this entire generation, for all of our lives, Democrats have been embarrassed by the public legacy of like the New Deal. Bill Clinton won saying the era of big government is over and he's going to end welfare as we know it. And he did. And he said, don't worry about it because I have all my CEO friends that are just waiting to hire you as we get you back off of welfare. And how could that class of politicians expect that now that it's time to protect what's left of the New Deal legacy, things like Social Security, Medicaid and Medicare, like the actual only time that Democrats were really good at constructing government in this country, like we're expecting all these people who are from the period of doing F all. Okay, Obamacare, thanks for just a Band-Aid there. Like, we're expecting them to protect it. It's going to need to be a Bernie Sanders style or AOC, like and actually I saw Tim Walz sort of talk about this. He credited Ezra Klein's abundance thing, which I think is maybe a little bit sideways, but basically he said, look, like we can't just go back to maintenance of the inheritance of government systems and say we need to put it back how it was before the Republicans messed it up. There needs to be a point where you say we're going to build the new institutions for the 21st century. That is things like public health care. Like we need to, like things that didn't need to require the Southern Democrats to get on board with. Like we can set these systems up anew. And so but that's the big question, because Democrats like Walz see that, and even some others might see that as necessary, and it is. And there's a whole bunch of other Democrats like Chuck Schumer who do not agree with the need to completely basically do a new deal. I mean, Nancy Pelosi said the Green New Dream or whatever. We need to do at least that, a new deal.
I would love us to go further, but like we're just at that point where if Trump has 4 years of whatever the Democrats are doing, calling it opposition, I think that they're trying to set themselves up for an easy 2028 election. If we have Democrats getting an easy 2028 election where they put someone like Gavin Newsom into the presidency, we will see in 2032 a more outright fascist Republican Party candidacy, a Republican Party in general, right? Because we know people like Gavin Newsom, they will not go far enough left to, tamp down on the material deprivation that gives rise to fascism in, crumbling Western nation states, right? They will just continue the austerity policy. They'll put maybe a more friendly face on it. They'll do some like lazy gesturing towards social liberalism that will just piss people off more and give like social liberalism a bad name because it's tied to like unpopular neoliberal politics. And then we'll have, President Nick Fuentes in 2032. We won't be staring down the barrel of like techno-feudalism or like, where we all live and work in the company mines and then shop at the company stores under Elon Musk and Mr. Beast. We'll be dealing with outright like Nazism. We'll be dealing with, more outright Nazism. Because that's what they mean by like socialism and barbarism. Like we can go in one or two directions. There is no the illusion of neoliberal like Democrat type liberalism as like a homeostasis is just that's an illusion. They're like that's not a sustainable place to be.
Also, it's not just good policy. I feel like there have been many Democrats over the years who talk the talk, say they back something, and then when push comes to shove and it's up against the wall, they're like, oh, we tried, we just couldn't do it, because they knew it wouldn't happen. They knew that there would be something to block it, so they would support it, so they got the good graces from that, but happily knew that it would fail. No, we can't do that either. Along with the good policy, we need politicians who are just gonna fucking get it done. We're gonna fucking do it. Do it. Like, I don't give a shit what the parliamentarian says and all this other bullshit the Democrats like to dance around. Yeah. Look what Trump is doing right now, defying orders from judges, literally breaking the law. You know what? Break the law for good if you have to. Give everyone health care. Let Republicans have to peel it back from people after they get it, and then let them tell their constituents why they no longer have health care. Like, literally, enough with this bullshit.
100%. We got another town hall clip here. This is from Chuck Grassley's district. Yeah, just play this here.
What's happening, Brian?
Questions range from how Elon Musk is wielding so much power to tariffs and everything in between. Senator Grassley acknowledged the anger directed at the Trump administration, as well as members of the crowd who supported his sweeping changes.
And your role as a long-term senator is to speak up and remember those of us with little power.
At times, questions to Senator Chuck Grassley boiled over at a boardroom in the public library in Dysart.
Trump said, I'm going to follow the court decision, but we're going to appeal.
The crowd size exceeded expectations and were divided into two meetings. Gloria Zmolik traveled nearly an hour from Cedar Rapids to be here. She's also part of the group called Indivisible, an organization opposed to Trump's agenda.
I'm very frustrated with the decisions that are being made in Washington by the Trump administration.
Many of the questions focused on the work of the new Department of Government Efficiency and Elon Musk's impact on shrinking the size of the government.
I want to make it very clear that Musk has no power
The senator says he's holding the town hall despite the Republican National Committee advising congressional Republicans to stop holding town halls because of how tumultuous the meetings have been across the country. But critics pointed to how even his own office didn't promote this event.
There was no mention of this town hall. I didn't find out about it until late last night.
We did have a large turnout, and there were a lot of tough questions. A lot of people are mad at what's going on in the Trump administration, but I hope I was able to answer their questions effectively.
Senator Chuck Grassley says his office didn't list this town hall on public schedule because the Tama County Economic Development Authority hosted the event, not Grassley.
A lot of us feel helpless. A lot of people that have similar opinions as I, and spending a lot of time, they spend a lot of time complaining about it. But I think the important message here is you've got to speak up.
It seems to me like if so many people are showing up to an event, Chuck Grassley, that isn't a officially hosted by you town hall just to speak with you, it sounds like you should probably set up some town halls for your constituents then. I mean, the fact that they're going to this unofficial event to talk with you seems like you should be setting up some events for them. Also, I think you should be posting your schedule online regardless of whether you set it up or not. Give me a break. Oh God! Yeah, these guys are just finding any little loophole or excuse as to why they're avoiding their constituents. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're running scared. They're scared of their voters, which, they should be, right? They should be afraid at the very least that they might be voted out of office due to their negative politics, and the way those politics and those policies impact people's lives. We know that there's been a mandate coming down from the Republican Party to prevent stuff just like this so that they cancel these meetings, so that people can't yell at them, so that they don't get all of these clips on the news of Republican Party politicians fumbling to answer questions about why veterans are being fired in large swaths from the VA, why people's disabled children are no longer able to go to school and get occupational therapy, because they're afraid that the lack of empathy that they rely on for their voters to vote a certain way will be impeded by seeing people like this who look just like them struggling under this particular government administration.
Yeah.
Shout out to Indivisible. mobilizing people like that in all over the country. In Iowa, a state that remind Democrats voted for Obama both times, and like we wonder how can we win in areas like that. Well, what did people project onto Obama that had Iowans voting for him that hasn't been able to be projected since? And I'm not saying states don't change. I know, like, I'm somebody who knows full well type of brain drain that happens in states in the middle of the country, and it doesn't have good long-term electoral impacts. But all these states have a huge fraction, at least, of people who are right on board with, I mean, and an increasing number who would say like, oh yeah, I want Social Security. I don't want to have to like drive to Dicestall or wherever that was in Iowa to go to the office when I used to be able to just call in because Elon Musk said it's inefficient or like fraudulent or something.
Also, Obama was Obama was the change candidate. People don't like business as usual when life sucks, and every Democratic candidate for president since Obama has not advocated for change. They've advocated for a return to normalcy. Even Biden, after 4 years of Trump, instead of being a change candidate from the previous administration, it was let's return to normal, not something new that will help us. Let's return to life before, which is not going to happen. People looked at Obama as a way to the future, and that's why they went with Obama. Even the 8 years, even 2 terms, because that's what he presented to them. And the Democrats, for some reason, saw a guy win 2 terms and said, let's not follow that strategy. It's bizarre.
Well, I think they learned the wrong lessons from Obama, because the right lesson to learn from Obama is, ironically, the same lesson you learned from Trump, which is that party politics, as usual, are very unpopular. People do not like the Democrats. People do not like the Republicans. There was just that CNN poll that came out that showed the Democratic Party that record low favorability. They're at 29%. But that exact same poll showed the Republicans are at 36%. The reason Obama was so successful and the reason why Trump was so successful within the Republican Party is because both were seen as outsiders who were going to shake things up and change politics as usual. That they recognized that both parties were incredibly flawed and that career politicians were like robbing people blind. And that messaging was enough to win people over towards like voting for them. The Democratic Party has not become more popular since then. The Republican Party has not really become more popular as a result of Donald Trump. If anything, they've become less popular, even as Donald Trump's popularity, is still higher than theirs. I think it's like in the high 40%. But what the Democratic Party is relying on, or like what the lesson they learned from Barack Obama, was that George W. Bush made the Republican Party so unpopular that they would never win presidency again. And when that failed to be the case in 2016, they were like, okay, but surely this time Trump made the Republican Party so unpopular that they would never win again. And that's what they're banking on for a third time, that there is a Republican Party presidency, an administration, that it will be so unpopular that the Democratic Party never has to do anything coherent again other than gesture to the right and go like, look at these jokers. You wouldn't vote for that. But that's not how it works in this country. Most people are not that like in tune with politics to the point where they're looking at things past like this very immediate moment, how they're able to survive under it, materially, and what what party is currently in charge. So I think going forward, unless the parties do something different, we're just going to see a lot more turnover, a lot less like 8-year presidencies and a lot more like 4 years. Okay, now every midterm, who's in charge of Congress and the Senate changes as well, unless there's been extreme gerrymandering going on, because neither party is dedicated to uplifting a large swath of the population out of poverty. And it's only going to take, for the Trump administration, it only took a few months for people to realize that they were just being scammed by populist rhetoric. And so we're just entering in a very negative place in our society where people are, being widespread subject to like austerity politics in a way that like they haven't been before. And that's coloring their ability to think past the immediate moment when it comes to voting or politics at all.
Right. No, I think you're absolutely right. Also, though, I think those polls will always have Democrats at a disadvantage, because the fact of the matter is that Republicans give the majority of the base what they want. So the people who vote Republican are usually happy with their party. Whereas Democrats, they give a large portion of their base the opposite of what they want. And even though those people might go out and vote Democrats to stop the Republicans, they still voice their disapproval of the Democrats in those polls. So Democrats will always be at a disadvantage in those polls, if you ask me. But that should be a message to them that, you know, that can't keep going on, because eventually those people will become disengaged and just decide that it's not even worth it to do what they've been doing, and that is to just try to stop the Republicans.
Yeah,
you know, if Republicans keep winning, if Republicans just keep winning regardless of all the, you know, going out to vote against Republicans that you want, you know, then they're going to start to think, this isn't even working. I'm not voting for the Democrats. Me voting against Republicans isn't even doing the job. What's the point of any of this? And that's what they do not want.
Exactly. People are going to tune out. I think that you're right, that the Republican Party does a lot of better job of mediating people's waning material conditions through like the culture war, like by telling them that, like, you know, how your roads are all screwed up and you're like, you know, post-industrial Midwestern town. You know how like your son moved away from like Cleveland, Ohio to go live in New York City and doesn't visit except for once every, you know, few months or so because that's where his job is. That's the result of minorities moving into your community. That's the result of immigrants. And if we hurt those people, it will help you. And a lot of people, you know, find that message compelling due to like the history of racism and racist politics in America. And they also find it compelling because there's no real counter message to explain what's actually causing all those things to happen, because the Democratic Party isn't presenting that. You know, the Democratic Party isn't feeding their base anything that they can latch onto to like develop the same kind of like attachment to them that the Republican Party is. But now those people are seeing, because they're being hurt directly, not just not seeing other people be hurt, but they're being hurt directly by Republican Party politics. And so I think a lot of people are not going to necessarily turn towards the Democrats. They're just going to check out. They're just going to check out of like the political system, because the Democratic Party isn't like offering anything other than like not being Republicans for those people. So I think it's hard to see how people dig themselves out of this mess without actively offering an expansion of the social safety net in some one way or another, which it might just become necessary if this unrest keeps continuing. Like if we keep seeing, you know, unrest at all these town halls, if protests start breaking out in the streets, if more Tesla dealerships get caught up in conflagrations, perhaps spontaneously, they might just have to pass bills to keep things, you know, to a relative level of stability.
Right.
I would just say,
do we have any more? Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, do we have any more of those town hall videos? Yeah.
We'll move on from town halls to look at the most important building in the universe, the White House, in a second. But I'll just say, and I have no information on this. I've never met a Tesla dealer owner, but it doesn't take a lot of imagination to see a giant parking lot full of vehicles that aren't selling well, and an opportunity to light some of them on fire and blame the left to do it and collect insurance money. Like, I would just take an extra close look at the at what the owners of those what contacts they've made in the days preceding those dealership blazes, instead of the far left doing it.
You're right.
Point. Yeah.
This has a lot of Black's Rules energy. And also, you hate to say it, but sometimes like Tesla just do that. They just do that sometimes.
Right, that's
like,
true
not even when they're distressed. They just do that. Like, you know, so I can't say.
It's a feature.
It's a feature, not a bug.
You need to pay the $200 fee a month in order for it to not do the spontaneous combustion mode.
Right. I mean, one of Musk's companies literally sell flamethrowers. So I mean, it's not like he's not providing the means himself. I mean, they're there.
Do you see people ripping the paneling off that was like glued on to the side?
And they're not even attacking other Teslas. Like, this is them like getting permission to do this to show off how badly Teslas are made, like for YouTube videos. Like, yeah. Like
my algorithm is very good at showing me crappy like people showing how badly made Teslas are.
Did you see the
I believe
Wile E. Coyote one?
Cybertrucks. Which one?
The one where like the guy
Yes.
tried to see if like a Tesla auto drive or full self-driving feature could tell that it was driving into like a wall painted to look like the road, because like that would be a good thing. You know, I'm not saying that like Wile E. Coyote's out there a lot of times doing that to people, but it turns out Tesla, by nature of the fact that it uses cameras instead of stuff like LiDAR, cannot tell the difference between like well-painted wall that looks like the road and the actual like road itself, and it just drove right through the paneling.
That's great. That's great. Also, we should say that just today, Thursday, March 20th, every single Cybertruck has just been recalled due to that issue where the trim is just falling off of these cars because they're just glued on, as Matt Leck previously mentioned. Seems like a major issue. Like these cars are just not made well, honestly. And so, you know, if they're who knows what's going on at these Tesla showrooms?
Who's to say?
Who knows? Yeah. Also, there's another trend going on out there where all these like small time right-wing like micro influencers, like the InfoWars like D team, not even the B team, like the D squad is apparently are getting swatted apparently, and they're trying to blame the left. And I'm looking at these names and I'm like, I haven't even heard of some of these guys. Like, and you're telling me someone out there, some lib hates him enough to swat him. This reeks, again, no proof, but due to previous experience understanding this stuff, reeks of like right-wing infighting or something like that at the very least. That because if it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
It could be, or it could just be someone who considers themselves to be apolitical, who's mad about the state of what's happening to like the government under somebody who's very publicly doing it. I think, you know, a lot of times on the left, we get focused on like, you know, declaring everything, like, is it good or bad? Like making a moral statement about like any individual acts of like resistance or antagonism. But in reality, a lot of this stuff just becomes inevitable when you subject mass amounts of people to like incredibly terrible conditions. And it doesn't take any kind of political context, doesn't take reading like a theory, doesn't take any of that stuff to make someone so mad that they hate you enough to do something without care for how it impacts them anymore. I don't know if you guys heard those death threats that what was it, Tim Tillis? Tom Tillis was getting out of North Carolina, I think he's from. I've been watching a lot of Republican stuff. Doesn't really particularly matter where he's from, but like not all those people are like, you know, radical Democrat Kamala voters. Not all those people are like, you know, Bernie bros. Not all those people are like tried and true like communists. Some people are just like incredibly angry at the state of their lives as a result of the way the government has abandoned them. And now they have incredibly visible targets as a result of that. When people saw what the Adjuster did to that CEO of that healthcare company, that should have been a message to billionaires and politicians that like, oh, people are getting really angry now, and they don't feel like the institutions and agencies that exist, that the politicians that exist are capable or willing to provide real tangible redress for the conditions that people are currently living under. So a subsection of those people are just going to take it into their own hands, which is not a good thing. If we're going to put it into a moral, it's a bad thing, but it's a bad thing primarily because it shows that our government has abandoned large swaths of the population to the point where they feel like vigilante justice is the only justice that can be found.
Right. It's a great point, too, that you should probably explain that one to Elon Musk, because he's probably the number one guy out there right now who's so conspiracy brained that to him, everything must be some big nefarious plot with some bigger like name or organization behind it. Everything it requires some sort of funding. No one just gets angry with what's going on and does something as an individual. To him, everything requires some sort of like nefarious funding from some, some leftist money guy or organization. And it's just like you mentioned, it's just the majority of the stuff, when it is legitimate, like it isn't some sort of like inside job, is just someone who's upset with how things are going. And this is the only way they know how to share that feeling and that sentiment.
I like to take money from the Saudis and then cast aspersions about other people's where other people are getting their money. Let's duck in. This is clip we're talking about. This is Mark Robert, I believe, YouTube channel. Can you fool a self-driving car? This is him testing Tesla.
This one's the only one that matters. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're gonna do this. All right, hit it.
Now, as you can see as a human driver, while that looks sort of convincing, the image processing in our brains is advanced enough that we pick up on minor visual inconsistencies and we wouldn't hit it. And as for the LiDAR, it isn't looking at what image is printed on the wall. So this sort of just looks like a wall, which would make this the easiest test of the day. And as I suspected,
Handled it with no problem.
so the question was, would the Tesla detect and stop for this Wile E. Coyote-style painted wall that was hiding yet another child staring at nothing during what might be his last minutes on Earth?
One way to test that.
Great touch.
I love it. Yeah, that's a good touch.
I was actually supposed to go, but I chickened out. Oh! The car may not know it's a wall, but I know it's a wall. Everything in your body says, don't drive into a wall. Oh boy. All right, here we go.
And so I steeled myself and accelerated the Tesla up to the 40 miles an hour. And as the wall crept closer and closer without moving an inch,
Holy crap.
the question was if the Tesla would detect it in time to step on the brakes. And it turned out...
Holy me. Oh no.
So I can definitively say for the first time in the history of the world, Tesla's optical camera system would absolutely smash through a fake wall without even a slight tap on the brakes.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, it seems like, again, that could have been editing, but it seems like, based on what was presented to us, that he was pretty confident the LiDAR powered automated driving system in that other car, the first car in the video. He seemed pretty sure of himself that he wasn't too worried about going through that wall.
Yeah.
And he had a feeling the Tesla would cause issues because he did not want to even start the Tesla test.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they can't put LiDAR in Teslas because it's too expensive. So this is just like,
profit
putting...
motive.
Yeah, having it put in, having cameras just like normal cameras do it is like the way that you cut corners.
And you know what? I would understand. I would understand that if Tesla sold like really affordable vehicles in order to like help spread, the electric vehicle, idea throughout the country or the world, so more people had that entry level into EV cars, so we got more gas guzzling cars off the road. I would understand that if that was the case. But Teslas are not that. They're very expensive, even like the base models.
But no, LiDAR is really expensive, like way more expensive. I don't think that, I think Waymo, which is like the Google one, and there's like another automated driving car company that does that. Like they both use LiDAR, and they don't even reveal how much each car costs, because it would be like, I think, probably like $500,000, or at the very least, the cost of going down to Titanic and a fiberglass tube cost, like not like a divorced dad trying to flex on his ex-wife cost.
Yeah, exactly. And the LiDAR thing, we knew this also. Let's go watch another YouTube video on the same theme, because I do think it's instructive. This is a video. I don't
know. I'm looking it up right now, and I'm seeing people talk about buying LiDAR systems for like $1,000. Like,
it's just more expensive than the optical video solution Musk's has, and that has killed people, because that test that he ran, that just demonstrated something that we already knew and has already literally killed somebody, including one of Elon Musk's biggest fans on YouTube, a guy named Joshua Brown. This is a telling of that story from a YouTube channel by a guy named Nick Crowley. And the title of this video is, it's a compilation, YouTube's Darkest Channel 7. And this is, the channel he's talking about here is a guy named Joshua Brown, who was a self-driving enthusiast of Teslas and posted a bunch of videos about how great the service was until, one day it kind of wasn't so great.
No way of knowing then, but this would not be the last time that Elon Musk would tweet about him.
So Elon tweeted out one of his videos when it showed a Tesla like sort of dodging an obstacle on the road. Look at how great self-driving is.
Though his next feature would be under much different circumstances. It happened just 1 month after Joshua Brown's video had gone viral. He was driving on Highway 27 on a clear sunny day at approximately 4 p.m. With open road ahead, Joshua turned on his trusted autopilot, and it stayed in autopilot mode for over half an hour, as at this point, his trust in the car was higher than ever, causing Joshua to seemingly lose focus on the road, as he was quickly coming up on an intersection where a massive 18-wheeler had been turning left, blocking Joshua's entire lane. Joshua was seemingly so unfocused that he didn't even notice it. Even stranger, the car itself didn't detect this either, despite the entire trailer being horizontal in their lane. This was due to its pure white body, as the sun was shining so brightly against it that, for whatever reason, it became invisible to the self-driving AI. And with neither Joshua nor the car registering the danger that they were in, the vehicle would strike the trailer, going 74 miles per hour.
Oh, God.
There were no attempts by Joshua to even move the steering wheel, and the brakes hadn't so much as been tapped. The collision happened at full speed, and it happened so fast that the car drove straight through underneath, shearing the entire top of the vehicle off, and continuing driving full speed down the road, before it would eventually crash to a halt. When the driver of the truck rushed over to see the damage, Joshua Brown was already dead, and the truck driver could hear nothing but the sound of Harry Potter.
So the guy was watching a movie as he was
oh my God.
down the road.
Like, I mean, listen, people will argue that there is responsibility for the driver as well, and I agree to some, some extent. But at the same time, these vehicles should not be providing people with the ability to even do this stuff outright. Like, it should not be allowed. There are plenty of things that, there are plenty of other things in life where, if a person was smart enough or responsible enough, they wouldn't do this. But we then institute systems to make it not only so they shouldn't do this, but they literally cannot do this in order to save their lives. It's just what life is. It's part of the society's responsibilities. And for some reason, we think that when it comes to these self-driving cars like Tesla, that you shouldn't have these safeguards created. It makes no sense to me.
I don't think you should be able to, and maybe this makes me a radical leftist, but I don't think you should be able to market something as full self-driving, just like point blank, because, calling something like full self-driving and then having like a little asterisk after the driving that like leads to a page with like a 30-page disclaimer that's like, this is not actually full self-driving. This is some advanced cruise control mechanism, and you should pay attention at all times to the road. It would be great if everybody was incredibly aware of all the caveats of everything that they signed and bought, but they're not. And we know that they're not. And that's what we need consumer protection for, or we needed it for. And there's a reason why Elon is against those sorts of things, because those institutions, if they work perfectly, would prevent you from being able to market something as full self-driving, which is what we know is the main source of value for besides his own public image for like the Tesla brand. This idea that, it's going to be like the car of the future, and he's going to be pushing the robo taxi, which won't even have a steering wheel, and like things like that are what drive value for Tesla. And they just simply don't work the way that people are being sold that they work. Much less be allowed to like watch a movie.
One of the things that Musk recently was selling to his Tesla consumers as a reason to buy a Tesla, one of the more recent features that have yet to come to fruition, if they ever come to fruition, is that, buy a Tesla and you can make money because while you're at work, the Tesla will become a automatic taxi, a self-driving taxi. And when you're at the office or not at home, people can rent your Tesla to get around, and the Tesla will leave the parking spot you put it in, go pick the person up, go to their drop-off location, and work as if it's a self-driving Uber throughout the day. That is absurd. That is absurd. And you shouldn't be able to sell, A, you shouldn't be able to have that feature, period. And then B, you shouldn't be able to sell a feature like that isn't even possible, or yet at the very least.
Also, in the Cybertruck, you get the little feature where, like, if you pay an extra $10,000 a year, it'll do like your visitation, your monthly visitation that you get with your kids, as a recently divorced dad for you. So you don't even have to go. Like, you know, there are a lot of features that are designed specifically for Elon's fans. So, I mean, I think you have to consider it catering to them.
Right. Tesla drivers who believe in this stuff should ask themselves this question. In the only Hyperloop in existence, the underground tunnel for Tesla, the only one in existence in Vegas that connects the hotel with two sides of the convention center, they don't even use the self-driving aspect of the vehicle in the single lane tunnel to get people from point A to point B. Each of those cars has a human driver. If the self-driving, full self-driving, whatever it's called, was so great, why doesn't Tesla institute it in their single lane tunnel that goes to 3 different locations? Ask yourself that. Why don't they do that? I mean, I'm pretty sure I know why.
Should we get to this Laura Ingraham tour of the White House that Fox has been on?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
So here's just a little bit of sneak peek. It's nice to see some of the glamour inside the palace of the new king. And here is Fox News with bringing that to us.
Are you paving over the grass here?
What was happening is it's supposed to have events. Every event you have, it's soaking wet.
Yeah.
It's soaking wet, and people can't. And the women with the high heels, it's just too much.
That's where you did the Kavanaugh.
That's where we did. That's right.
Amy Coney Barrett.
And the grass it doesn't work, and we have a gorgeous stone and everything else.
Okay.
But you know we
Hold on, pause it.
and it doesn't work because the people fall into the wet.
Living in Queens my whole life, I have seen a number of homes over the years that do this exact thing. They have the little front lawn, and someone new comes in and buys it, and they don't take care of the lawn. So what do? They just fill it with concrete. There is literally nothing fucking uglier than that shit. It is the ugliest thing in existence. And he wants to do this at the White House because the grass gets wet. I mean, it is absurd. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just had to. Unbelievable. He doesn't even got to mow the lawn himself. There's people who do that for him.
I think we should pave it and make it, a little car dealership style. Get more Teslas in there, the new models. Here's a little bit more.
They said we have to do something like drapes or something because the light eventually affects it. And it's very cool.
Oh my
gosh. Just went up yesterday.
What?
The Declaration of Independence there behind some curtain.
It's got a little curtain. It's got the little curtain. I mean, it's actually pretty spot on. Like, I know they're saying it's so it doesn't get damaged from like the sunlight or whatever, but I look at it more as curtain is open until Donald Trump really doesn't want to respect the Constitution and do things his way. So he just pulls the curtain so I can't look at him back. Like, I'm breaking you, but don't look at me while I do it.
It's peeking through the fold.
How else are you going to keep Nicolas Cage from stealing it if you don't put it behind the curtain, right? Like, obviously, leftists are always supporting Nicolas Cage stealing founding documents from the American people.
I mean, this is what you all voted for. Like, honestly, I don't really care about the Constitution in the Oval Office with the little curtain, nor do I really care about the lawn and just covering it with concrete or whatever. I mean, it'll be butt ugly, but who cares? But like, this is what Donald Trump is spending his time on. This is what your very busy, always working president is doing. He's doing interior design in the White House and then going to the golf course.
He's fetishizing our artifacts and going to whack some balls around.
Like this is what he's spending his time doing. He's not working for you. He doesn't give a shit. He's outsourced his job to Elon Musk, and he's letting whoever he put in charge in his various cabinet positions basically work under Musk to deal with their little niche areas of government. And he's on vacation. I mean, I think the most active I've seen him in is the Kennedy Center stuff. And that's because he always wished he could take control of a New York City Broadway theater, if you ask me. I mean, the dude is obsessed with that stuff, which is probably the only endearing thing about him, or one of the few endearing things about him. But other than that, he's checked out.
Yeah, no, he's running like an aging mafia boss. Like, as long as like whoever is gutting our public sector is giving him some kind of kickback in one form or another, whether it's like to Jared Kushner, whether it's to one of his like other stupid children, whether it's Elon, like as long as it doesn't impede on his personal grifts or like, make him look too bad, he doesn't care. Like, you can tell by the crypto scams he's been running.
Oh yeah.
This is totally, he's looking at this, or at least the people around him looking at this as their opportunity to cash out. This is it. This is the moment. The first, that first term, I think they had bigger aspirations than that. But this time around, they just don't give a shit, and they'll do whatever they need to do so that at the end of these 4 years, they are so filthy rich and powerful that they're not even thinking about any potential sort of repercussions.
Yeah, I've never Yeah, exactly. I've never robbed a bank before, but I imagine this. If you went in a second time, you would know a little bit better how to get in and get out, and where the important stuff is than it was the first time.
And you'd be a little cockier too about it, and you'd probably try to, maybe that first time you didn't try to get into the personal safes because you just wanted to get into the one big one, like the big bank safe. You didn't get into the personal boxes because you didn't want to, maybe get caught. But the second time around, after not getting caught, maybe you will take your time, look around, see what jewelry is in this box, what documents are in that box, and that's what they're doing.
This is exactly like Ocean's 12. I agree with both of you. But no, I think also what is exacerbating that too is because Trump winning a second term has convinced them that there won't ever be any repercussions for this behavior. Trump winning a second term, probably the distillation effect that you experience on Twitter with all the dumb Elon Musk sycophants who are no matter what he does, they're still keep spitting in my mouth. I love it. I love it. It convinces a lot of people who want to believe that there will never be any kind of significant public backlash or blowback to stuff like this that impacts them, that of course there won't be, because everyone online is like a mindless serf who's just desperate to open their wallets. They're desperate to give their tax dollars to 1%. But we're seeing that that's not the case. And I don't think that has trickled up to these people yet. I think they still think they can just tamp it down by not having town halls. We don't have a town hall, and people won't even know what's going on. They'll just be back to eating dirt in whatever district they're in. I think that they have a very low opinion of the American people, but largely because they support them. Trump has a low opinion of his fans because they support him.
Right. Yeah, they see how easy it is to get what they want. They don't need to do very much, if anything, for their own followers. So what do they care? I mean, a perfect example too of a lot of the we brought up before the Tesla showroom fires or whatever, and the protests at Tesla. And what I'm seeing now, the current and Brandon just brought up how the sycophants just will eat their slop up no matter what and always support Musk and Trump. And what you're seeing a lot, and I think I saw this from you actually, Matt, that Andrew Schultz on maybe it wasn't from you, but he's on who's that other guy? That's not Joe Rogan, the guy who's second place to Joe Rogan
Lex
now.
Friedman?
No, the guy with the long hair. He looks like the guy
Theo
from
Von.
Theo Von.
Chris Jericho?
Yeah.
Oh,
so I wish it was Chris Jericho, but actually he's a Trump supporter too, isn't he? Right.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.